Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another live stream on the channel. I don't know why I decided to do that kind of introduction, but I did. So there we go. Hold on, let me get the chat popped up on here. And we shall begin. Just a heads up, I do not have my computer plugged up because I am in an area where I cannot plug up my computer. So I may have to shorten the stream a little bit due to the fact that I don't know how long the juice can last without a plug streaming onto a streaming service. So just a heads up, I do not have my computer plugged up. Okay, gotta check the audio. And now that we're live, I am just gonna go ahead and promote the sucker right here, right now, so we can just get that out of the way, so you won't have to worry about that later. If I can get it. There we go. Copy link. You know the drill. You got to post it on Facebook, promote it and stuff. And then we'll get started with our wonderful little discussion about albums. These are my favorite streams, by the way. I know I've said that many times before, but I'm just going to be honest and say that these are like the best streams I do. I love doing the album discussions. I could talk about music all day. Love talking about music. And it is, of course, one of my favorite things in the world. Just hands down, man. I love music. So, I love talking about it. Can't wait to get into it and talk about some great albums. Alright, a little bit of delay because I'd never use the Wi-Fi on my phone while I'm using the Wi-Fi to stream, as to not disrupt anything, not to, make the Wi-Fi weak or anything. I just use my phone data. Share that on my news feed, then we'll post that on Discord, even though literally no one checks my Discord. My Discord server is dead as a doornail, but I still post it on there anyway. Okay. Let me post this on the Discord, and we will be ready to begin. There's an ant flying in my face. Okay. And I think I fixed the thumbnail problem too. I think it'll now actually show up the thumbnail, which is great, because I had that problem before where it would show the thumbnail of the previous video. I don't know why it did that, but it did. It did it. It did it a lot too. Okay. So yeah, let's jump right into this. Let me get the chat up on here so I can see the chat, see what people are talking about. Any activity. My mom's on. Okay. I got the brightness down low on here just as to, save as much battery as possible. But, okay, now that we have promoted and everything, it is time to jump right into it. Hold on. Whoops. I didn't get my notes up. Get my notes propped up here. Perfect. Okay. First up. This is an album I just listened to today. The first time I heard this album was this morning. And I've been sleeping on this album, man. I mean, I've been listening to some Dinosaur Jr. before. Of course, I've heard, their hits. Feel the Pain. And, those tracks that pretty much everyone has listened to. But I have never listened to one of their albums in its entirety. So I decided to kick it off with this album, and boy, am I glad I did, really, because this album kicked ass, really. I love this album. There's a strong energy that stays strong throughout the entire album. Some albums, when they have, a really strong energy and a lot of, I guess just energy on the album, sometimes there's moments where it falls off. And then it kind of, doesn't have the same amount of energy that the rest of the album had. This album doesn't have that problem. This album has a strong energy throughout the entire thing. Doesn't really fall off at all. It has heavy punching bass that helps amp up the strong energy on the album. And also, the excellent driving rhythms and the songwriting every track has is also a huge factor to this great energy that the album has. And every single track on this thing is insanely memorable and replayable. I'm probably going to go back and re-listen to a lot of these songs from this album tonight because I really loved this album, and there's some tracks I want to go back to and replay because the replayable value on this thing is crazy. All right, I already know that I'll be playing some repeats on this one, so I'm excited. I found another album I really love, and finding another album that you really love is just a great feeling. All right, when I went into this album this morning, I didn't expect to fall in love with it like I did, but I did, and I'm super happy. But because of every track being insanely re-listenable, it makes this album an absolute joy to re-listen to over and over again. I can see it now. I'll probably be re-listening to this album a lot. And it probably won't get stale. And another thing, the quality of the music on this record is obviously great, but it also had a massive influence on future rock bands. And I think the biggest influence that it has is paving the way for shoegaze, because a lot of the distorted guitars on this thing sound a lot like shoegazing, like a lot like shoegazing. Hold on, this late. So it had influenced some shoegaze bands in the future, and it favors shoegaze heavily. I mean, I'm not saying it's straight up shoegaze, but it had to influence shoegaze, And I like how this album ends with a very gentle and calm song, but it's not completely gentle and calm. It has like strokes of intensity, which helps take a breather from the album, from the album's power, but it also retains the drive of the album as well. It doesn't kill the flow. It still retains that drive that the rest of the album had. All right, so that's pretty much all I got to say about that album. My favorite tracks on it, Sludgefest was my favorite on there. I love that track. Little Fury Things and Raisins. Those are my 3 favorites on the track. So overall, I'm probably going to have to give this one a 10 out of 10. I think it's an absolute classic album that is worth the listen, and more listens after you listen. So, yeah, definitely check this one out. All right, Dinosaur Jr., You're Living All Over Me. I don't think I said the name of the album. Okay, yeah, I did actually. Okay, next up is an absolute masterpiece. Miles Davis, Kind of Blue. Oh my God, man, this album. I love Miles Davis. He is my absolute favorite jazz musician ever. His discography is just so solid, so consistently great that, it's kind of hard to say that he isn't one of the best figures in jazz, because he really is. He is one of the best jazz musicians who has ever lived, hands down. And this album is just the prime example of that. This is the record that pushed me deeper in the interest for jazz music. If it weren't for this album, I probably wouldn't be as big of a fan as I am of jazz as I am right now. But this album is what pushed me into, I guess the rabbit hole, you could say. It's not really a rabbit hole, but you know what I mean. It pushed me into my love for jazz. This is the album that did that. And it is an absolute staple of modal jazz. Modal jazz? I think it's pronounced modal jazz, whatever. With an exceptional ensemble of musicians. I mean, you got Miles Davis, you got John Coltrane, you got Cannonball, you got Bill Evans, you got Kelly, you got Paul Chambers, and you got Jimmy Cobb. Talk about a great ensemble of musicians right there, man. And these folks together make for a masterful album. Just them all coming together and, making some great music comes out with exceptional results. Kind of Blue results. Man, each track is iconic as the last. These are compositions that will be remembered for ages to come. Really. This was one of the most important albums in modern jazz history. It is just ridiculously important. Alright. Someone said my YouTube brought me here, so I'll enjoy. Alright, cool, man. Welcome to the stream. Alright, where was I on the notes? Another thing I love about this album is that each member delivers their different talents It each shares the same talent of exceptional musicianship, but also shares their talent of what they can play so very well. Each track is so free-flowing and incredibly expressive. This whole album is incredibly expressive. From Miles Davis' trumpet playing to John Coltrane's exceptional saxophone playing. Seriously, really, he's got to be one of the best saxophonists who has ever lived. Like, really. I know that's like a cliche statement, like John Coltrane is the best saxophonist, but, you know, there's sometimes the reason why some statements are so stereotypical to say is because they're true. John Coltrane is one of the best saxophonists who's ever lived. Although I think my personal favorite is Sonny Rollins, but John Coltrane may be the best. But anyways, that's about all I gotta say about this album. This album is exceptional. My favorite tracks, Blue and Green. Man, that is such a beautiful song. It gets me every time, right from that first note. Whew, it gets me. Flamenco Sketches and So What. Overall, yeah, this is just a straight up masterpiece right here. This is a masterpiece. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. All day, every day. Kind of Blue. If you haven't listened, if you're not much into jazz, this is the perfect place to start. If someone wanted to get into jazz, I would say Kind of Blue. Listen to this album. You will love it. Alright. Miles Davis, Kind of Blue. Done talking about that one. Next up, Idols, Joy as an Act of Resistance. I've liked Idols for a really long time. I listened to their debut album, Brutalism, and I really enjoyed that one. But as much as I liked that album, and I went back to listening to tracks from that album, I didn't get the chance to dive into Joy as an Act of Resistance until now. About a week or two ago, I finally got to listening to this album because I'm sometimes kind of picky about when I listen to my albums. For some reason, I don't want to just, randomly just listen to an album. Usually if I know an album's going to be really good, or if it's by a band I really, really like, and you know what I mean, then I want it to be like an experience. You know what I mean? Like, I want it to be like a memorable moment that I can look back on and like, I remember the first time I listened to that album. That's how I want my first listening experiences of albums to be. Of course, they're not always like that. Sometimes I'm just like, okay, if I keep waiting to listen to this album in an experienced moment, then I'm just never going to listen to it ever. Or it's going to be like years down the road and it's going to wait way too long. Sometimes I got to be like, all right, let's just dive into this thing and enjoy it. That's what I had to do with Joy of Act of Resistance. I wanted it to be an experience diving in, but I was just like, okay, I'm just going to put it on. I'm just going to listen to it. But it ended up being an experience on itself. Because it is an experience, dude. This whole album is an experience. It is solid modern punk music with things to say. And it has a varied track list. It has the hard-hitting songs like... I'm Scum. But it also has songs like June with poignant emotions. June is a very personal song for the lead singer. And yeah, it is very emotional, and it fits on the album too. Like, it isn't just out of place. Like, he has it placed in there really well. This light. Okay. For some reason, the light isn't catching me at some points. But anyways, the lyrics are great. I love their use of it has nothing. Hold on. Friend X says, it has nothing to do though. Just say goodnight to me. I would really be very happy. Friend X, good night, man. Alright. Hope you sleep well. Alright. Moving on to the album. The lyrics are really great. They have a great use of sarcasm and a lot of the lyricism. I love their use of sarcasm, and it's just such a staple in their music. I love it. And the powerful energy oozes throughout the entire album. I know I said energy a lot, but I can't help it. Energy is a thing that appears a lot in music, and it appears very well in this song. In this album, not this song. This entire album. And I love how it has a lot of nods to old school punk bands while still retaining an entirely different sound from them. You could tell they were influenced by, the common punk bands, the common greats of punk, Black Flag, Dead Kennedys, those greats, but they still have their own sound, They still have a completely different sound, and that's very admirable about this band. And yeah, they have a really unique sound that stands out among modern punk. Okay, so that's about all I got to say about the quality of the music on the album. My favorite tracks is my all-time favorite track on this album is I'm Scum. That's the best, and Samaritans and June. Those are my favorites on the album. Overall, yeah, this is likely the best modern punk album out there, really. Definitely the best punk album of the 2010s, I really do think. Yeah, I'm going to give this one a 10 out of 10. Screw it, man. 10 out of 10. Joy an Act of Resistance, a very solid punk album. If you haven't checked out Idols yet, definitely give them a listen, especially if you're in the punk. If you're in the punk, you absolutely need to give them a listen. So, yeah. Idols, Joy as an Act of Resistance. Great album. Next up, The Gun Club, Fire of Love. This is another album that I listened to recently. What drew me to listen to it is when I found out about the band and I looked on this album on Wikipedia, I saw that they have blues influence in their music as well as post-punk. And, I'm a huge sucker for post-punk. I've said this a lot. I love post-punk a lot. It's one of my favorite genres of music, if not my favorite genre of music. So when I heard post-punk being mixed with blues, I got really excited. I was like, okay, this is going to be awesome. I got to check this out. X-Friend X says, thank you. You improved my night, man. Good luck with your album dialogue. No problem. I hope you have a good night's rest and get yourself a good sleep. All right. First thing that gripped me on this album, and I knew this was coming up. I knew a unique sound was coming up because mixing post-punk with blues, that's going to be a unique sound right off the bat. And yeah, it has a unique sound that's created through mixing post-punk with blues music. I love it. And also the songs are insanely catchy, especially songs like Sex Beat and She's Like Heroin to me. Those songs are just incredibly gripping and catchy. It's kind of hard not to sing along to those songs. They're really, really catchy. And they're insanely memorable too. I can't really forget those tracks. They're great. Tight musicianship all over this thing. All the musicians on this album are great and really stand out on the record. And I like how it touches upon a lot of dark themes, and they keep this a consistency throughout the entire record. Almost every lyric on this thing is dark, or at least subtly dark, and it works really well with the album. And as for the influence of this album, it had a huge influence on many artists preceding the release of this album, especially post-punk acts, new wave acts. It had a lot of influence on them. Alright, that's about all I gotta say about the quality of music. As for my favorite tracks were Sex Beat, She's Like Heroin to Me, and Fire Spirit. Those are my 3 favorite tracks on the album. So, what would I give this album overall? Overall, I think this is a really unique album that stands out as a very solid album in post-punk. So I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. Really good album. Check it out. Okay. Let me do another check on the chat here. Whoops. I accidentally clicked out. Okay. Nothing seems to be going on in the chat. Let me take some water sips real quick. Oh no, not having it plugged up is really draining my battery really bad. Oh well. We'll be able to get through the albums. Okay. Oops. Next up. Fleetwood Mac, Rumors. Man, this is an album that pretty much anyone who is, familiar with rock music at a basic level is familiar with this album, or at least familiar with this band. It is filled with classics all across the track list. Like, seriously. There's not really a single track on the album that isn't iconic, Like, every single song is memorable. Every single song is just classic. And I think one of the main reasons this album came out to be so exceptional is because the tension within the band created one of the most emotionally driven records out there. Like, really, the personal experience the band members had are poured into the lyrics and also the execution of the music, and it makes the music even stronger. Like, really, that I think that is one of the main reasons why this album is so good, is because, like, every single band member had something going on, and they poured it into the music, and had a significant effect. It had a significant influence on the quality of the music. As for the musicianship, amazing guitar work by Lindsey Buckingham, most notably on the songs Never Going Back Again and Go Your Own Way. I love Lindsey Buckingham's guitar playing. He is, honestly, personally, one of my favorite guitar players in rock music. He's really good. I saw the man live a while back with Kristen McVie, and he is still got it. He's still a great guitarist to this day. And I think his best guitar work is showcased on this album. It's really great guitar all over this thing. And of course, Stevie Nicks. That should be all I could say, but you know, Stevie Nicks, her voice is just iconic. Like, really, her voice is just unique and iconic. And every single band member, like, despite me, like, pointing out those two band members as one of my favorites on the album of why I love it so much, every single band member is important to the quality of the music here. Every single one of them. As noted on songs like The Chain, they have a force that keep them together. And I think it must be the music. And, yeah, this album just has extremely stellar songwriting as well. Every single song is really well made. I think that was already declared through my previous points, but that's what I've written in my notes. Don't know why I just kind of threw that in there, but whatever. Okay, favorite tracks. My favorite Fleetwood Mac song of all time is The Chain. It's their best. And Gold Dust Woman and You Make Lovin' Fun. Amazing song. Overall, a masterful album that is an undeniable classic. 10 out of 10. Easily a 10 out of 10. Alright, let me look at the chat here. The Gun Club. Yep, The Gun Club. Masterpiece. Absolutely, this is a masterpiece. You Make Lovin' Fun is fantastic. Yes, it is fantastic. And it's one of the best cuts from the album, in my opinion. I love Christine's vocals on that thing. Alright. That is Fleetwood Mac Rumors. Next up, this is an album I listened to recently. I think what grabbed my attention on this album is the album name, Atrocity Expedition. Exhibition. I'm bad at pronouncing it, but whatever. What grabbed my attention is that the title is from a Joy Division song. And Joy Division is one of my favorite bands, and I heard this as a hip-hop album. You know, I was kind of gripped. I was like, okay, I gotta check this out. And I just went in completely blind, having no previous knowledge of this rapper, having no previous knowledge of what this album is, or even fully what it has to offer. I just went in, like, full-on blind. I just dive right in. And I think that made the experience for me even better because I wasn't sure what to expect, but it hit me, you know? It hit me right away. And I loved this album. It is honestly one of the best hip-hop albums I've heard the past decade. It is just exceptional. It has a distinctive sound, and there are multiple genre influences that are showcased on every single track. Every single track on this thing has, you know, different things pulled from different genres, and I love that. It's great. And Danny's flows and inflections are incredible, and he also has an eccentric voice. Danny Brown's voice, he has that high-pitched rapping, screaming type thing. Not really screaming, but yelling, yelping, whatever you want to call it. And I would assume that would throw some people off, but I like it. It's his own style and it works for his music. I like it. And it has excellent lyricism too, and that's one of the most important things in hip hop. You got to have great lyricism, and his lyricism is excellent. His lyricism can be personal. His lyricism can create strong pictures in your head. His lyricism can also be funny at times, and this showcases his diverse talent as a lyricist, because he can touch on so many subjects extremely well every single time. Never heard of him. I'll have to check him out. Yeah, definitely do. This is an album that kind of, blew me away on first listen, because, like I said, I didn't know what to expect, but I went in and I was pleased with the quality of the music here. The production. This was probably my favorite thing on the album. The production was amazing. It was amazing. Like, literally just amazing. That every single track has an excellent atmosphere, and I think the production adds to the atmosphere. I think one of the biggest reasons why this album has such a strong atmosphere is because of production. The production is just excellent. And I love the guest appearances on this thing. Kendrick Lamar was a nice surprise on here. Kendrick Lamar is one of my favorite rappers of the decade, and probably one of the best artists of the last decade as well. Earl Sweatshirt was also on this thing, and AB Soul. Those were features that I notably loved. Yeah, that's about all I got to say about the quality of the music on the thing. Favorite tracks. My favorite track was Rolling Stone, followed by Really Dough, and Dance in the Water. Those are my favorite tracks on the album. Overall, yeah, this is arguably one of the best albums in 2016, and quite possibly one of the most creative rap albums of the past decade. Yeah, this is a 9 out of 10. Not no weak 9 either. This is a really strong 9. This is like close to a 10. And this could probably go to a 10 maybe one day. After more listens, I can maybe get this one to a 10. But I recently listened to this album. This is a new listen. So the score's still kind of settling in. This could go up to a 10. As for right now, it is a 9 though. So yeah, excellent album. Okay, next up, I had to talk about this one. My uncle convinced me to talk about this one. So I was like, all right, screw it, I'll talk about it. Rage Against the Machine. Rage Against the Machine. Self-titled. This is a classic in metal. Anybody who is a fan of metal knows about Rage Against the Machine and likes this album. Well, I'm not sure every person who's in the metal likes this album, but a lot of them do, and I do, myself included. Excellent riffs, excellent songwriting, and overall execution. And also, I love Zach's vocals. They're very energized, and his nods to hip-hop help create the album's distinctive style. And the lyricism is straightforward, but it works because Zach has excellent punchlines, and his passionate aggression helps amp up the scale of the lyrics. Not to mention the insanely memorable lines littered across the track list. All over the place. There's so many great lines on this thing, especially in Killing in the Name Of. Excellent lyricism on that one. Check the chat. We got a puke emoji. Uncle Ray. Yep, Uncle Ray. Never was a fan of Rage, and that's alright. I love Rage, though. Never really a dull moment on this album, really. Like, the whole album is just a joy to listen to. It's a really good album to just, jam to in the background. I do that a lot. I just kind of throw it on when I'm doing something. And, yeah, it's great for that. And it does a good job at keeping its momentum steady throughout the entire album. So, yeah, that's about all I got to say about the quality of the music. Check it out. Rage Against the Machine is really good. My favorite track is Killing in the Name. I know it's the most popular track in the album, but I don't really give a shit because it is so damn good. I don't care. It's just too good. I don't care how popular it is. It's amazing. Bullet in the Head and Bomb Track. Overall, classic metal. I'm gonna have to give this one a 10. Yeah, I'll give it a 10. It's a 10 out of 10. Maybe a lower 10, on the lower side of the 10, like a little faint 10, but it's still a 10. I understand why people love them, just never click with me. Yeah, there's some bands like that for me as well, and that's alright. Alright, Rage Against the Machine. Great album. Love this one. This is probably one of their best albums. Their second album is also just as good, I'd probably say. Next up, we got... What is my computer doing? Lady Gaga, Chromatica. Lady Gaga is an artist I've been listening to ever since I was a little kid. Alright, I have fond memories of listening to Lady Gaga, driving in the car with my dad, and he played it a lot. He loved Lady Gaga. And that was around the time the Fame Monster came out, and, and a lot of people were talking about her. She was very popular. People are still talking about her. She's still very popular, but I'm just saying that this was like in her prime about then when she made the Fame Monster, when I got into her. So I kind of have like a little bit of a personal connection to this album. Not this album, but to Lady Gaga, because I've been listening to her for so long. So when a new album came out, I was like, all right, I gotta dive in. I gotta listen to this. I gotta check it out. And I really do think it is one of her it is Lady Gaga's most consistently great set of songs since the Fame Monster. I think this is her best album since the Fame Monster. The Fame Monster is still my favorite. I love the overarching concept of like the surreal world that Gaga's painting a picture of on every single track on the album, and it makes it stand out among her other work because her other works doesn't really have something like that, like an overarching concept. So this is definitely unique for her to experiment in that type of world. And production, man, the production on this thing is just astounding, absolutely amazing. It makes it sound so big and grand, and mixed with Lady Gaga's Lady Gaga's booming voice, her very passionate voice, it sounds amazing. And, her voice is great always. And she's very talented at creating excellent hooks. And excellent hooks are all across this thing. You're So Me, just throwing out the compliments. So many things click now. I respect Lady Gaga as an artist. She does some monoscreen things that were kind of cool, but not my bag. That's alright. There's a lot of people who would not like Lady Gaga, and I understand because Lady Gaga, she's a pop artist. Not everyone's into that, and that's okay. But in fact, I wouldn't expect myself to be in this type of music either. But due to the personal connection I have to it, Lady Gaga. I like Lady Gaga. And it also like the interludes on this thing, the Chromatica interludes, like Chromatica 1, Chromatica 2, Chromatica 3. Those little interludes she's included on there, I like them. Those are good, and good inclusion. She didn't really have those on her previous albums. So that was a cool little thing to include. And even though I like this album, and I thought it was really solid, the reason it gets the score I'm about to give it is because some tracks had a little left to be desired. Alright, had a little left to be desired because I wasn't too keen on, for example, like the most notable example, I wasn't too keen on the song Rain on Me, mainly because of Ariana Grande, but it wasn't horrible, it was just kind of mediocre, you know what I mean, just kind of not bad, not horrible, but it was a weak point in the album for me, that song. My favorite tracks, though, Alice is my favorite track. That track kicks ass. Stupid Love's also a really good song, and Enigma. Those are my 3 favorite songs on the album. Overall, this is a pretty great album. Like I said, this is Lady Gaga's best album since The Fame Monster, and I'd give this sucker an 8 out of 10. Alright, next up, another artist I discovered recently. Crystal Stilts. I recently got this great music. I signed up to this great music website called Last FM, and basically what it does is it tracks all the music you listen to. Unfortunately, it didn't track what previous music I listened to, but it once I sent an account, it started scrobbling after that, and I love it because what it does is it takes my taste and it finds stuff that it thinks I will enjoy, and this is one of the albums that it picked out for me, and it actually wasn't this album, it was actually their debut album. I listened to that first. I loved it. I thought it was excellent. I would probably give their first album a 9 out of 10. But then I went into this album because I loved that first album so much. And wow. Yeah. I think they were perfected their sound on this a little more. And this album stands out to me as their best album. One of my favorite things about this album is I just love its great surreal imagery painted in the lyrics, and complemented with the echoey and reverby guitars. This creates for a very lucid and dreamy sound. This entire album has a very lucid, dreamy, spacey vibe, if that makes any sense, that I really like. Some of it sounds kind of alien, you know what I mean? Like kind of alien and otherworldly, if that makes any sense. But anyways, I love, it's also very entrancing sound as well. But yeah, this album has really strong melodies, and I love its post-punk combination of like a post-punk indie lo-fi sound that, you know, helps create their unique and distinctive sound. And it has a very memorable set of songs. Every single track is lovely. There isn't really a point where there's any crappy songs. There's no bad songs on the album for sure. It's very enjoyable all the way through, and it doesn't really fall off the mark for me at all. So yeah, that's about all I gotta say about that album. But I'm telling you, it is an excellent album. My favorite tracks are Alien Rivers. That's my favorite track. My favorite track is Alien Rivers. Through the Floor and Shake the Shackles. But yeah, when I went to this album, I was like, wow, this has got to be one of my favorite albums of the decade. And you guessed it, it's one of my favorite albums of the past decade, and I would probably give it a 10 out of 10. Not a strong 10, but a light 10, if that makes any sense. I'm starting to do light and strong 10s now for some reason. I have no idea why, but there you go. It's a 10 out of 10. That's all you gotta know. All right. Next up, okay, we got 37 minutes into the stream, so that's a good amount. I'm glad. So I got enough albums to talk about. Finish off that water. What's the chat doing? Let me see. We got 4 likes. We got You and I is my fave of hers. Oh yeah, that song. Dope. Okay. Next up, we got some death metal going on. Deicide. For the longest time, I thought this band was Decide, and I never really noticed the I. And so, not too long ago. But despite me being an idiot with the album name, I've always really liked this band, especially this album, their debut album. It has excellent, and now I wrote superb, but whatever, both words work. It has superb musicianship all throughout. I love the drumming. The drumming's really tight. The guitar is evil sounding, if that makes any sense. And the bass is also really great. And the vocals, I love the vocals on this thing. Some of the best I've heard in death metal. The vocalist on this thing does an amazing job at sounding like a demon. And I haven't really found any other death metal vocalists to do it as well as they did on this album. It's really good on this album. Like I said, some of the best death metal vocals I've heard is on this album. And yeah, and there's great riffs all over this thing, and it has an overall solid consistency of an evil sound. There's some death metal albums where it has the evil sound, and then there's some, tracks on the album that are really cheesy and kind of takes away from, the evil aggression of the album. This album doesn't have that though. It keeps that evil consistency throughout the entire thing. I know it's kind of weird for me to keep saying evil, but that's kind of what this album is. It has like an evil sound. I don't really have any other way to describe it. The tracks flow into each other really, really well. It has a lot of great energy. It has a lot of great aggression. Very abrasive. Very raw. I like that. And that's about all I got to say about the quality music there. My favorite tracks, Sacrificial Suicide. That is one of my favorite death metal songs ever. The bridge is just amazing. Like, so good. Lunatic of God's Creation, and the title track, Deicide. Overall, this is a very solid death metal album. And while it isn't one of my most favorite death metal albums ever, it's probably up there. It's probably in the top 20 for sure. So yeah, this is a 9 out of 10. A strong 9, heading up to a 10. But it's not perfect. Alright. Deicide. Oh yeah, the drum. The drums are really good on this thing. Deicide. Okay, we got some more death metal. Following the discussion of that one, we got Dismember, Like an Everflowing Stream. This is a death metal band I discovered recently only because they aren't on Spotify, which is kind of lame. Like, come on, get on Spotify. Apparently there were some legal troubles and their entire discography was removed from Spotify, and it's not that big of a deal, but I would prefer if I can, listen to my artist's music on Spotify. But hey, it doesn't dent the quality of the music at all, because I think this is, after almost immediate listen, this is probably my top 10 most favorite albums made in death metal. It is so damn good. Exceptional songwriting, musicianship all over this thing. And I love how it has like a very bassy sound, and the bass sticks out, and it sounds wonderful. I love it when the bass sticks out, especially in metal. I wish more metal bands would utilize the bass, because it can sound really powerful when you do it right. The guitar tone is awesome on this thing. It's gnarly. I love the guitar tone. And has some of the most quality, evil-sounding riffs on a death metal record. Like, especially on the song Ride of the Overture, there's like one part of the riff that just sounds so damn... It sounds like something straight out of hell. And that's a compliment in the album's favor. Usually that's not a compliment in the album's favor, but in terms of an album that is trying to capture a evil sound, then yes, it is a compliment. It sounds like something straight out of hell. Very raw and brutal, but it's still very melodic and sometimes atmospheric. They don't let the very raw and brutal sound overtake the quality of the music, because the quality of the music is still there. It's still really well written music. Every track is amazing. Every track is amazing on this thing. See this? These guys I don't know. I do like bass that stick out a lot. Straight Out of Hell, I'm sold. Yep. It sounds like Straight Out of Hell. So, if you like music like that, definitely give this one a listen. It's an absolute classic. Absolute classic in death metal. Favorite tracks. My favorite track is Ride of the Overture, Dismembered, and Death Sleep. Overall, yeah, this is quite an exceptional release in death metal. 9 out of 10. Strong 9, too. Going up to a 10. But yeah, that's dope. That's a good album. We're almost to the end of the albums. Very unfortunate. But, hey, we're doing really good on time right now. So, no worries. Next up, Big Lizard in My Backyard by The Dead Milkmen. The Dead Milkmen is a band that has been suggested by my dad. And I remember a long time ago, I can't remember what song it was. I listened to it and I thought it sucked, and I never listened to this band again. But I gave them another chance. I jumped into Big Lizard in my backyard, and I loved it. I don't know what track I listened to that I thought sucked, but I didn't think the album sucked at all. Maybe it was because I was younger and my music taste sucked. Major ass. But yeah, Dead Milkman, Big Lizard in my backyard. I love this album. I love the tongue-in-cheek lyricism that they have on this thing. The tongue-in-cheek lyricism and the humor. Most notably for the tongue-in-cheek lyrics they use the tongue-in-cheek lyrics to mock, like in Bitchin' Tomorrow. That track is hilarious. Probably one of the funniest songs ever. I love that song. It's hilarious. The comedy on the album is spot on. Absolutely spot on. And mixing punk attitude with comedy is just straight up genius. Like, it's just such a good blend, you know? Because you can mix the comedy and talk about, you know, some serious issues while mixing in some comedy in there. And they do it so well on this thing. It is so well done. This is probably, in terms of comedic music, this is probably top tier in terms of it. And it makes for so many open doors of great lyricism. And it has a very solid punk sound that is very unique and distinctive. They really do have their own sound. There isn't really a single other punk band that I can really think of that sounds anything like the Dead Milkmen. They have their own sound, really. Their very, very own sound that nobody else really has. And there's a lot of great ideas and creativity on this thing, mainly in the lyricism. I love the lyrics on this thing. And I usually don't mention the album covers when I'm talking about the musical quality of something, but I just got to point this out, that I think the album cover is just a perfect visual representation of the music on the album. I don't know why. It just is. It just is an excellent musical representation of the album. And if this album had a different album cover, I don't know, it'd still be, you know, as good as it is, but this album cover is just perfect. So yeah, favorite tracks on this thing. Big Lizard is my favorite track. Bitchin' Tomorrow and Right Wing Pigeons. Overall, yeah, this is one of the most creative punk albums out there. And I wrote 9 out of 10 here, but I changed my mind. It's a 10 out of 10. This is a 10 out of 10. My rating on there is wrong, even though I just wrote it like 10 minutes ago. Pretty sure I'm the one that played them for you. Maybe you're the one who played them for you. I don't know. So it's a classic punk sound. Yeah, it's a classic punk sound, but not really, because, like I said, there isn't really another band that sounds like them. They got their own sound. All right, Big Lizard in my backyard. One of my favorite punk albums of all time. I love this album a lot. Okay, and we're gonna finish off the album discussion stream with you just butchered saying Camaro. Yeah, I thought I did. Bitchin' Camaro. God, yep, I butchered it. I don't know how to pronounce it, but whatever. You knew what I meant. Last album of the album discussion stream tonight is, if I can get it up there, Enya, Watermark. This album has a lot of personal attention to me, because personal effect on me, because this album and Enya in general was played a lot when I was a little kid. So I love Enya for that. And yeah, this is probably her strongest album. I mean, she has albums that are almost equally as strong as this, but I think that this is her strongest album. It has a very calm, lucid, and relaxed sound, and it perfectly encapsulates sounds of serenity and peace. Enya's voice is incredible on this thing. Like, really, she's probably one of my favorite singers ever, really. Her voice is just amazing, because she uses her voice as an instrument. And it often helps create an atmosphere with it in the music, if that makes any sense. Like, she uses it as like a soundscape within the music, and I love I love that she does that. She does that really well. OMG used to have the Camaro. Hard pass. Hard pass on Enya? You know, hard pass Enya. My brother is a huge Enya fan. Yeah, I can see why, because I also am a huge Enya fan. The ambience and overall sound on the album is superb. And the album is just really blissful. It's a great album to put on when you just want to sit back and relax, maybe take off your mind off some things, some stressful things. This is the album to put on because it's almost like a dream world displayed by sound, if that makes any sense. And to avoid repetition, she also has songs like Orinoco Flow that take a different approach than the other songs do. So yeah, my favorite tracks on this thing are Orinoco Flow, Storms of Africa, and Evening Falls. So, yeah. Overall, this is one of the finest new age albums ever made. Maybe quite possibly the finest, the best. I'd give this album a 10 out of 10. Alright. That concludes this album discussion live stream. I hope you guys enjoyed me rambling about albums. I can probably ramble about albums all day if I wanted to, really. But, you know, I gotta end the stream sometime. 51 minutes in. That's a good length. So, gonna stream again Friday. Gonna do a poll and ask you guys what do you want to see? What do you want to see Friday? And we'll do it. All right. Have a great weekend,